everyone. It's me, it's Nicole Marie, and welcome back to episode 2 of For the Record podcast. And today I want to talk about releasing music as an independent artist. There are steps to it, obviously, it's going to look a lot different. Versus a major label artist where they don't really have to do much work. It's the label doing the work for them, right? But releasing music as an independent artist, it takes a lot of groundwork and a lot of admin, uh, behind the scenes work, if you would. A lot of artists think that, once they got the song, once they've got the music mixed and mastered, they can just go ahead and release it and hope for the best, right? But that's not the case. Obviously, as an independent artist, like I said, I think in a previous YouTube video that I did, as an artist, you are your own walking, talking, living, breathing business. You're your own brand, and so you have to think of yourself as such. Um, the first thing that I always stress about it, anyone who knows me, anyone who has worked with me in the past knows that I'm big on copyright. Copyrights is basically, when you get your music copyrighted, I mean, it's not required. Obviously, as soon as you I know I've heard a lot of people say that as soon as you record the song, it's officially the copyright is officially copyrighted. But I mean, I always think of it like a song is like a baby, as I'm not a mom yet, but I'm very protective, like mothers are very protective about their children, right? As a writer, as a musician, I'm very, very protective about my songs, about the music that I've written, and all that, because I don't want anyone to steal it. And then I don't want to have to go to court and a lawsuit. It's just best, to get yourself copyrighted. It protects you and it really saves you a headache. It might be a little bit expensive, but at the end of the day, it's worth it, right? So there are two kinds of copyrights, though. One being an SR copyright, which is sound recording, and the other is a PA copyright, which is performing arts. So there are two distinctions between the two. The sound recording copyright only protects the recording itself, right? While the performance copyright only protects the music, like the melodies, harmonies, the beats, or the underlying musical composition. You can choose both if you want, or you can just go with one. I mean, I've done both, and I have done only one in the past, even though I recommend all artists, to do both. But again, it's up to you. But these are just, little guidelines, if you would, or recommendations that I would recommend as an independent artist to another indie artist. Um, the next thing after you've registered, after you've figured out which copyright you're gonna do, after you figure out like, all right, I'm gonna do sound recording, or I'm gonna do PA, performance arts, or I'm gonna do both. After you got that figured out, you have to figure out which PRO are you going to register your work with? Is it going to be BMI or ASCAP? So there are pros and cons. I'm signed on with BMI. I love BMI. It's great, but I've also heard great things about ASCAP. At the end of the day, though, it's really, again, it's up to you. There is another songwriting pro that I heard about, but it's not really big here in the US. It's called CSAC. Um, that's one, but the main two here in the States are BMI and ASCAP. You have like a lot of your favorite artists, a lot of your favorite writers are on BMI and ASCAP. So the importance of registering your work with BMI or ASCAP is, while you get your mechanical royalties from DSPs like Spotify or Apple Music or iTunes, um, they only collect what's called mechanical licensing collectives or mechanical royalties, right? But when you register your music with your preferred PRO, whether it's BMI or ASCAP, they're going to help you get your royalties, which is called public performances of your. I'm sorry, it's called performance royalties. I think is what it's called. And then there's a link that I'm going to post in the description. It's the link where I found that information from is www the MLC.com. So there's some really cool stuff in there, guys. But again, BMI and ASCAP, they help you get your performance royalties. Mechanical royalties and performance royalties are completely two different things. And I don't think I'm gonna spend too much time on it. Again, I'm gonna post a link in the description for your own research. So then after that, you got okay. So you got your copyright. Well, you got the music. Obviously, you've got the copyrights. Whether you're gonna do both or just one. Then you've got your music registered. And maybe actually, I just thought about something cool. Maybe I could actually do like a tutorial on how to register your work on BMI. I wouldn't know about ASCAP, but maybe I could do like a tutorial video on how to properly register your work on BMI, because I get a lot of questions like, "Hey Nicole, can you help me? Can you help me walk through this? I gotta register my song. I need your help." And I've actually helped other people do that, so maybe I can do that later on. That's a really good idea. And if you would like that, let me know in the comment section. Um, so after all that, now is the time to choose the right music distributor. There are tons. There's Dito, there's TuneCore, there's DistroKid, there's CD Baby, and there's so many others out there that I'm not really familiar with. But those are like the main four or five ones that I do know. There are a lot of different distributors to choose from, which makes it kind of hard for artists to choose which direction they should go. Again, many of these distributors are like Dito, TuneCore, DistroKid, CD Baby, and those are just to name a few. And there are differences between all of those that I listed versus CD Baby. The difference between CD Baby and CD Baby is my favorite. Before I started releasing music, my professor, Dr. Bogle at Cedar Valley College, the school that I went to, he was telling me, he was like, "Yeah, Nicole, like you need to register your music with CD Baby," and I was like, "All right, cool." And I mean, it's been great. I've gotten paid when I was supposed to get paid. They it's so many like different perks that CD Baby offers that the others don't. Now, the only stipulation with CD Baby is that they charge a 9% fee, a 9% fee basically. Like they take out 9% of whatever you make, while the other ones, right, they don't charge you anything. They just you keep all your royalties. But the only kicker is that with DistroKid, TuneCore, you have to pay like a yearly fee. I think with TuneCore you have to pay, I think, $29.99 a year or $49.99 a year. Same thing with DistroKid, and I believe with Dito as well. So if you like, paying that money a year, that's great. I think I'd prefer to pay. I mean, and then the great thing about it is with TuneCore and all those other ones, while you have to pay that yearly fee, you can release so much music without ever having to any pay per fee per release, right? So like for instance, if I have TuneCore and I release my next project on TuneCore, if I release my next album on TuneCore, I'll have to pay the $49.99 fee or however much it is. And that's good for the whole year. So within that year, even though I've released an album, I can release multiple singles and not have to pay anything else until the next year. And that's the really great thing about it. Whereas with CD Baby is if you want to release an album or a single or an EP, whatever the case is, you pay that fee. But if you want to release something else, like maybe say 6 months from now, then you have to pay it again. And I think with CD Baby, they have like different levels of payment you can make. Like I believe with like if you want to just do like the regular release, it's like $29.99. I think that's for a single. Um, but if you want to like release an album, then that will be like $60-$70. I'm not really sure. Don't quote me on it yet. But again, I'll post some links in the description for you guys. Um, so those are the only things that I actually didn't know that CD Baby, took out a 9% fee until about a few years ago when I was signed on to a label which that actually could be another YouTube. That could actually be another like YouTube story time vlog, or that could be another episode for here on later when I was signed on to a label. But the person, the A&R told me that CD Baby charges a 9% fee, and I didn't know that. So, but again, I didn't have any issues with it because CD Baby, they offer so many great perks that the other ones don't. And then also like with CD Baby is you get a lot of good you get a lot of like good extra perks in there that the other ones don't. Um, but yeah, so let's just keep going here. Uh, and personally, when I first released my EP, Begin Again, back in 2017, I was using CD Baby up until I think 2020 when I released the single To Evolution of Love, brand new, in February of 2020. And I had people telling me, "Oh, you should, work with TuneCore." And I've actually released later that year. I released TuneCore. I released Evolution of Love under TuneCore, and the results just wasn't. It didn't really hit the same for me. It didn't really hit the same for me. Um, I really prefer CD Baby. I mean, as the old saying goes, if it's not broke, I mean, if it's not broke, why fix it? That's just my personal preference. Some other great perks. Again, like I touched up on, there are no annual fees. They do offer valuable marketing tools, like better SEO. They offer physical distribution. They even include vinyl in there, as well as CDs. And they also actually have like different types of CDs, right? If you want like the jewel case, um, like this right here is a jewel case, or if you want like the sleeve, I've seen those too. And I think they also offer business to business. I think they'll actually put some of your music. Don't quote me on this though, I'm not quite sure, but I think I remember a while ago that CD Baby um, they offer services. You have to like really look really good in your account on CD Baby. Like they offer like there's an option where I think you probably can get some of your music in stores. I think, I'm not sure though. I know it was like that when I did see that. It was maybe 2017, 2018ish, but I'm not sure if they do that now, if they ever really did. But I think I did see that with CD Baby. Um, the other great thing is that they offer pro distribution, right? And what that means is that CD Baby will do all the work for you as an artist by collecting every single royalty from around the world every time your music is being used or played. This means that they will collect royalties that not even BMI or ASCAP will collect, or they might miss those. So, but CD Baby does the extra legwork for you, which is why I prefer CD Baby. It might be more expensive, but sometimes you might have to pay more for that extra level of comfort, or you might have to pay more to get better service or get better quality as an artist. Because again, you're your own brand. You have to think of yourself as a business, right? If you look at these companies like Nike or Reebok or Apple, even they all have their own brand, right? So you have to think of yourself as a brand. Even though you're an artist, think of yourself as a brand, think of yourself as a company. Have that mindset, think big. um, and then, like I said, all in all, I am no means telling you which one you should choose. All I'm saying is that, you have options, explore your options. I was talking to a writer that I've been working with since the summertime. He was asking me kind of like the same question, because I told him, my preferences, and I kind of told him about it. The song that we've been working on is for sync. But he kind of asked me, he was like, well, Nicole, like, I don't know, like which one, like, I know you said, you had, your favorites or something like that. He asked me, and I just told him, I said, hey, look, I mean, CD Baby, not CD Baby, TuneCore and DistroKid, they're great. It's just my own personal preference. I really prefer not to use those two, just because you don't really get much, I feel. But again, that's just me. I'm very picky about who I work with, or like not who I work with. I am picky about who I work with, but I'm very picky about the distributor, because if you have to really think about your options. Again, CD Baby is more expensive, but you do know that you get more quality, especially if you're a writer, especially if you're a writer. Like I received my first check as a writer from BMI using CD Baby. I never, and that was for brand new actually, which was released through CD Baby. Now with Evolution of Love, yeah, I did make money or whatever, but that check, it was amazing, because it's like that was my first check I ever got from BMI as a songwriter. That was big for me. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm a songwriter. I love writing. Um, I love performing, and I miss performing. And I am working on getting some more shows booked, but songwriting is where it's at financially. And I mean, there's just so many opportunities as a writer in this industry to make so much more money and it be fulfilling and rewarding at the same time. So yeah, let's just continue. Um, and then, again, I have some links I'm going to post in the description. But let's just keep on going. And the next thing is creating a marketing plan. Okay, there are artists out there, and I've seen this where people have released music constantly and constantly and constantly, and they never let the music marinate. They never let the music kind of like simmer and marinate into people's minds and whatnot. They don't have a plan. They don't have a marketing plan. You have to be very, very intentional about literally everything you do in life, especially as an artist. If you're just releasing music hoping for the best, it's not going to happen that way. I promise you, it's not. I've seen artists that I'm associates with, and I'm colleagues with, I'm friends with, and while they have great music, but they don't market themselves. And it's like there's nothing, as a writer, as a singer, as an artist, there's nothing more disheartening as an artist than to have great music, but no one will ever hear this music because you didn't market it correctly. um and I think that's the really crucial part, because again, you can have all the great music in the world, you can have the best writing, you can have the best mixing and mastering, you can have the best sound in whatever genre you're in, you can be the most talented whatever rapper, singer, piano player, anything, but if you don't have that marketing plan, then all that is just going to go down the drain, which is why I have a few points on here that I want to touch upon. Once you've figured out the paperwork and whatnot, you have to make sure you have a budget set aside. Okay, how much do I want to spend on marketing? Is it 1,000? Is it 10,000? If not more. I mean, I've talked to some marketing companies where they charge $10,000, but the results are great. I mean, these people are they have worked with major label artists, and they have worked with major independent artists as well. So you just have to have that, set aside. You have to understand, okay, what's your number? And it also really helps if you have your own home studio. So okay, I'm not spending money on recording. I'm not spending money on production. Maybe if I am, I'm not spending that much. And I know if I'm gonna spend money on mixing and mastering, it may not be that much. I can deal with that. So you're not coming out too much out of pocket, especially when it comes to the marketing. So if you spent, like, say, if you spent maybe $1,200 on mixing and mastering for a good mix and master on an album or what have you, um, okay, I can get that back through CD sales, streams, or whatnot, ticket sales or whatever. But then you also have to factor in how much money you're going to spend on marketing. So if you plan on spending, $5,000 or $10,000 on marketing, just be sure you have to make that money back. Because again, if you're looking at yourself as a business, as a brand, you have to be able to make sure that you're making profit. You're not just breaking sorry, but you're making profit off of whatever you spent. And that's including money spent on mixing and mastering. If you don't now, if you do your own mixing and mastering, that's great. I am still learning how to mix and master my own stuff, so I still have to pay my engineer to mix and master my things, mix and master my music. Um, but so I know I have to factor that in on top of the money I spend on marketing. So I'm like, okay, I have to what's the word I'm looking for? I have to make sure I make profit off of whatever I spend, because again, if you're serious about your career, this is not a hobby. You know, this is, you're not just spending all this money and okay, yeah, whatever. If you really care about this and this is what you're pursuing this as a career, you have to be very mindful of every cent you spend on marketing. Now, that's only if you want to spend money on marketing. I mean, if you just want to, I mean, say you have a marketing plan and you have like the brains to know like which way to go or whatever, marketing wise, that's great too. You can create a marketing plan without ever having to spend money. You might have to do a little bit of promotion, like maybe Spotify campaigns or um, other type of campaigns. I think they still have Facebook campaigns. I mean, no one really uses Facebook anymore. TikTok campaigns, but maybe I should create a marketing plan. Um, I might do that. Maybe if you guys want that, then just let me know. Um, excuse me. Point number two: if you've been releasing music for a while, you've been in the industry, you should already know who your fan base is. So by the time you've already done like the admin work, like the copyright, the distributor, the licensing, I mean, registering your music on BMI or ASCAP, by the time you get to the marketing part, you should already know who your fan base is, especially if you've been releasing music. This is like your third or fourth or fifth release. You should know who your fan base is. You should know who your demographics are is. You should know who your you should know who your demographics will be. You should know the age, whether it's male, female, or whether, whatever. You should know that. And the great thing about that is it's on Spotify, and your Spotify artist page, they actually break down the demographics as well. Like, okay, you have, um, you know, let's see here, 70%, you have 70% female listeners and you have 30% male listeners. Um, you have most of your listeners live in, the United States, or live in North America. This percentage of people have, listens to this song or this album or EP more than this. So you should know. And I think that's a really great tool to study, like who your listeners are and what they prefer most, what they prefer most more than others as far as music and content. So that's a really great way to understand who your fan base is more. And again, it helps you connect not only with your current listeners, current fan base, but it also helps you connect with more, with new fans and new listeners and new followers and whatnot. Um, and so the next thing is, you can even develop your own social media campaign. That's very vital, especially when you're getting ready for release, when you're preparing your music for release. IG's, Instagram's new algorithm updates, posting reels is like the biggest thing now. And I posted my first reel back in the summertime. When I saw how many people like watched it or played it, I was like, what? Let me post more of these and see what happens. But yeah, reels are amazing. I mean, you could like, do things like post, clips of you in the studio working on a song or a clip of the song, like the chorus or whatever, or, you dancing to it, or just get creative, right? With the content that really, really helps. And then, this is where you gain new followers and where you grow your fan base, because you're able to engage with them through your music. Some post ideas, like I said, would be, behind the scenes work, themed posts, cover videos, music videos that you may have filmed in preparation for the new release. And even going live, like I know I was doing like what I call songwriting Sundays, and I haven't been doing that in like over a year because things have been picking up for me, and that's great. But I used to do like songwriting Sundays, and that was like a way where I, for one, focused on like my craft as a writer, because this was like COVID, like 2020, 2021, top of 2021, where I was still like, it was kind of like COVID was still like a thing. um so yeah, so I was doing like songwriting Sundays, and I was getting ready to actually made a mental note to like go live on Sundays, and I'm just like playing the piano and singing, but I never did that. But I'm actually probably going to start doing that on Sundays. I just have to have the time, because I'm always recording and working on content and behind the scenes stuff as well, especially now that I'm working on this film. um and I've been working on some sitcoms, but that's been taking a lot of my time as far as writing for other artists. And this one big project that I can't really, you know, I don't want to talk too much about it, but again, these projects have been taking a lot of my time. Um, yeah, so let's just keep going forward. So I mean, yeah, you can even go live, do like some live Q&As in preparation of your release. I think I would post like between 2 to 3 times a week. No, not 2 to 3 times a week. Well, yeah, you could. I would say post 2 to 3 times a week, depending on how much time you have. um I would even post sometimes 2 to 3 times a day. I was told that by this marketing company that I was speaking to. I think back in the summertime, back in June. The owner, and I'm not going to say the name of the marketing company. They're a really big marketing company out in Canada. And the person was all like, yeah, like you should post like 2 to 3 times a day. I'm like, what? That's outrageous. But I mean, we live in a day and age of content, where content is like big, especially with Gen Z, like in younger millennials and Gen Z. Like we love a lot of content, especially Gen Z. So it's like you have to be able to keep up. But yeah, so as you're getting ready to not promote, but release your single or album or EP, like content is king. It really is. And again, at the end of the day, it all comes down to consistency. 2 times a day, even, or even 3 times a week. I mean, you can post as much as you like. It's really no set number, because the more you post, the more like the algorithm is going to pick up on that, and so it's going to show your content to people who have watched, who watches, or who follows content similar to yours. That's how it works. Again, there are some really great PR companies you can hire to help you move into the direction you want to go for your upcoming release. I have some of my own favorites, as I mentioned before, um, that I'll be working on my next EP album. And that's the thing. I don't know if I want to release an EP or an album. I know I did say like way back in 2016, 2017 that I was going to like release 3 EPs, then an album. I was going to do like a series of EPs, then an album. Excuse me. Now I've done 2 EPs. I could release an EP, the third EP, but I'm like, I don't know if I want to release an album. Like I touched up on in the podcast, the episode last week with June's 88. As millennials, if you were born in the 90s, or people who were born in the 80s, that growing up in the 90s or growing up in the 2000s, albums meant a big, big deal. So that's why I'm like, I don't know if I want to release an album just yet, because I have to make sure that like everything is up to par with that. So again, that's kind of like off topic. But if you want the details on who to contact, or like what companies you would like to know, you would like more information on, just let me know. And I won't post them here, but if you want to reach out to me personally, then yeah, just let me know. Um, and then You can also, pitching your music to blogs and playlists and, press and radio. That's really, really big. There's this service on that my mentor slash vocal coach told me about in 2019. She told me about this site called Fiverr, where you can actually, outsource and hire people, for these type of things where they have blogs, or you can actually pitch it to other places. I know there's one blog that I follow on Instagram. It's called Buzz Music LA. I think that's what it's called, Buzz Music LA. And again, I'll probably post that in the link. But if you type in Buzz Music LA in Instagram search bar, they'll pick up, and they're really great. Um, I mean, radio, you can still put your music on radio. I mean, radio is still a thing, obviously. It's not as big as it used to be because, again, millennials and Gen Z, we prefer not to listen to radio. I mean, I prefer not to listen to radio. But there are other like great like other radio stations around the world where they have like independent radio stations, or online radio stations, or satellite radio stations all around the world. And these are some really great places to really promote your music that no one really think about. Um, and then let's see what else I have here. Some blogs offer great interviews, which is really amazing press, because you can put those interviews or press releases onto your website or onto your not there's a website, and then what's the other one? I can't think of the other one. But yeah, your website. Um there's another I can't think of the name of it. Let's see if I can well, I'm not going to find it right now. But if you can post like your links, like your press links onto your website and whatnot, it really makes you look good for booking agents and what have you. And again, there's this link that I have where they have 7 top marketing strategies for musicians, and it gives you a more in-depth insight on how to effectively create a killer marketing plan if you don't want to spend, an arm and a leg on marketing. And again, the length of marketing, I would say it could be 6 weeks or 3 months, even. It really depends. Releasing artwork is obvious. I think the first thing is creating, eye-catching artwork that's gonna wanna make people stop. I remember like growing up in the age of like albums, physical albums, and whenever I'd be in Walmart or Target, whatever genre it was, I'd just be looking. It didn't have to be R&B, didn't have to be pop. If it was country or whatever, if the artwork was eye-catching, it would make me stop and be like, oh, who is this? Because of the artwork, it really draws you in. I'm very visual just because I'm an artist. So visuals really stimulate my brain, basically. So eye-catching artwork, creating eye-catching artwork for your new releases will for your new release, sorry, will stop your listeners and even, new potential fans dead in their tracks. And then after all that, you want to set a release date. Now, I think you should have a release date in mind before you get to the marketing plan. Again, it really is up to you. If you want to, have a release date in mind, set in stone, that's great. Before the marketing plan, again, I remember would typically a, I would set a release date before the marketing plan, and sometimes I would do it afterwards. But I think it just really depends, especially if it's an album, you have much more to promote. If it's an EP, if it's a single, you don't really have that much to promote. Sorry, I can't talk today, guys. You don't really have that much to promote if it's just a single, but you still have to put in that work. So yeah, creating setting a release date is important, guys. And again, I think I remember researching there are really great dates to release music. Certain times of the year when it's really great to release music. I think sometime like around November to to like January or February is like kind of like dead months. I think I remember researching that a while back. Releasing music from like March to May. Um, I've heard, I've read somewhere that it's not really good to release music around that time. But I don't know why. I think it was because of festivals, like South by Southwest, and whatnot. But I mean, I think releasing music, especially in the springtime, is great because, what's the next season after spring is summer. So if you have all this music and you're releasing, say you release your album in the month of April or May, right? And then, summer is rolling around. So you have the entire summer, the rest of spring, and all of summer to promote your music, especially, during the summertime. And really, during the summertime, I think is probably the best times of the year to release music just because like people are traveling, people are out of school, people are having parties, so people want new music to listen to, or whatever, for like their road trips or going to the airport or for the barbecue or for the cookouts or whatever. So people want really great music. So releasing music in the summertime is like perfect, but also releasing music in the springtime I think would even be better. Me personally, just my preferences, I'm thinking of it long term, more logically speaking, it would be better to do it that way, just because like, you're able to release music in the spring, and then you're able to continue to promote all this music all the way up until the summertime, you know. So that's really one cool point that I remember, and I'm glad that I thought about that as I was closing out today's episode. But releasing music in the fall is actually good too. But I think releasing music around the holidays is like, people have done it. Like major artists, I remember like major artists have released music. I remember like Rihanna. I remember she used to release her album like almost every November, like 2012. She released her album, and I think her album before that, I don't remember when she released that album. I think so. Yeah, a lot of artists have released their music around like November. I remember Taylor Swift released her album that came out in 2012. It was Red, I believe, Red, because Rihanna's album 2010, that was called Loud. For some reason, I get those two album titles mixed up, but I remember Taylor Swift, I believe, she released her album in 2012, like around October, November. So those are good months. But again, think of it like this, it's the holidays. As an independent artist, the holidays are coming up. No one is really, that ecstatic about getting new music. People are, it's the holidays, people are traveling, people, just want to get to where they're trying to go, in a timely manner. Um, but again, I think, there's really no right or wrong way or when to release music. I mean, I'm just thinking of it like coming from a logical perspective, right? If you want to, have a really great summer, maybe releasing music in the spring, would be best because spring leads into summer. Or if you want to release music at the top of the year, even. I mean, like, again, it's really no right or wrong way. It's just really all about preferences. That's just my personal preference. I prefer to release music maybe like in the summer. I released Evolution of Love in the summertime, but that was a bad summer because it was 2020, and it was, it was right after the time of George Floyd was killed. So again, I felt, like I said in last week's episode, I felt guilty, or I felt bad at that time, promoting my music when those things were happening around that time in the world. And I have released music in the fall, like my last release, um, Troubles. I released it last October, I believe. November. Last November. First, I don't know. Sometimes I like fall releases, like October, November. Me personally, October is like one of my favorite months. I don't know why, and I feel like I'm getting off topic here. But again, like I said, all in all, I really hope this has helped you. I hope that if you have any questions, you can, contact me. You can, my email is down below. You can always reach out to me on Instagram or Facebook or my website, which is also down below as well. And again, I'll post these links in the description so you can check for yourself. But thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you for staying all the way through for the last 40 minutes. Again, thank you for watching For the Record podcast, and stay tuned for next week's episode.